you write in your book that how we as citizens perceive our situation and choose to build our narrative deeply affect our future. So, and you also talk about how there's inaccurate representation of India's policy, especially foreign policy in media. So, how do you suggest that what is the way to correct the narrative in the country? Is following in India, China's footsteps the right way?
Well, firstly, I don't think controlling the narrative is the main task of either Indian foreign policy or Indian diplomats or of academics. I think I actually believe there is an objective truth and an objective reality that we're dealing with here, which I don't think all those who believe in narratives and discourses and the postmodernists, I think, have their own view of this. But I don't hold to that. Secondly, I'm not sure there's always a correct narrative. This is not an engineering problem, politics. Politics is a process. And problems mutate, they become benign, they become acute, they become malign, various things can happen. But it's not, even the India-China boundary, for instance, if you settled the boundary tomorrow, drew a line, both sides sign an agreement, it's just the problem would change into a different thing. What do you do with the people, the cross-border ethnicities? What do you do with border trade? You would deal with a whole different set of issues, which might be much easier, but you'd still have issues. So for me, I'm not sure there's always a correct narrative. I think what's important is what outcomes do you want? And how do you determine your outcomes? And that's where narrative, perception, all this becomes important. Because if your brain is foggy and clouded, and if you come in with all these ideas that this is the only thing that's right, or if you come in with a huge ego, you're unlikely to see reality, and you're likely to set targets and aim at controlling the narrative rather than changing outcomes. And that's one of the points I try and make in the book, is that as long as you concentrate on outcomes, you come out relatively better. But if you concentrate on narrative, image, all these parts of it, I don't think it works very well. And I think we have ample proof of that in the last 72 years. So I don't think we should try what China's doing. China spent what, about $26 billion on its external projection, and look at her image. I mean, she has less soft power than Greece has, if you actually measure it. So I'm not so sure that's a good way to go. But it is attractive to certain kinds of people, and there's no question. And it makes life so simple, right? The media will only say what government wants it to say, and we will project this image of monolithic unity. Nobody will believe us, nobody will follow it, but we will feel good, happy, and we can fool ourselves into thinking. And frankly, many Chinese understand the problem. It's not as though the Chinese don't understand that, and they do actually write articles, they do speak about, they discuss pretty fundamental things. And this is where I think we should learn from China. China's a closed society with an open mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we are an open society with a closed mind. You look at the Chinese, they are ready to discuss issues. I mean, Ko Zhao Huang writes a book saying, what is China? If an Indian historian born in 1950 wrote a book like that, what is India? He'd be accused of being anti-national. I mean, think of what would happen to him or her. Yeah. So for me, there are some things about China that are worth the pragmatism, the open-mindedness about things that don't affect regime survival. I think there are things there that are worth learning, but certainly not their attempt to control the narrative.